Greetings, I am Louis Guidetti. And being one of the most popular and sought after artists on YouTube with several millions of loyal fans and subscribers, I oftentimes get asked to do various types of videos to help those less intellectually gifted than myself. So today I will grant the wish of my dear friend Clara and grill the shit out of my followers' work. Needless to say, several thousands of people jumped at the opportunity, but I could only take a few. But don't worry. This will be a very constructive video where I will not only better my loyal fans' understanding of art, but also expand their confidence by being characteristically nurturing, compassionate, and caring. Let us begin. All right, so the first one we have is Queldar, who's been a very loyal subscriber to mine. He has served me faithfully, bit of a jackass. This piece is one that he did a couple years back. And he said it wasn't received that well with his teacher, but he was very proud of it. Let's see if we can work with it. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, so Clara, she sent me a couple pieces, and let's see what we can do to improve upon this. Oh man. All right, Clara, where to start? First thing, I would say that we have quite a few edges that are too sharp, and I'm talking about this edge right here, 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 and here. This needs some work, this needs some work. We're gonna try to make the mouth look a little bit more realistic. We're gonna do that through values and drawing. This area, frankly, I don't know what you were thinking. Oh wait, you weren't. We could also work on the anatomy of the ear. And another thing to keep in mind is this sharp edge right here is very common amongst the simpletons when they're first starting, morons. But here, normally there is a shadow that you see coming across here, and here you have it, but the shadow is more unified, so you won't see this line. Because the reason why that is, there's a plane here, and they shift into each other. But this is going to be catching some shadow, right? So that's going to unify this entire area, which is going to tie this together right there. I also like to say that this hairline is way too sharp. Normally what you want the hairline to frame the face, but you also want it to flow into the face as well. And you do that through transitional values and drawing. Now, looking at this side of the face that's in shadow is popping out too much, and that has to do with the shadow edge being like a knife. We need to soften this edge quite a bit to make it recede into the background. Also, this little highlight we have right here is not working. I wouldn't put that in. Even if it was there, I wouldn't put this in compositionally. Artistically, it is not a good decision. And one thing I would like to do also is to organize the light values, because we have essentially the paper all right here, unless it's a photograph, which I doubt. And we mainly want to put the focal point around this area right here. So I'm going to put the highlights around this area, maybe a little bit here, perhaps here, maybe, but we'll see. Another thing that I see is this eyebrow is going this way, but it's not lining up with this one right here. So there's no flow with the face. Now this area right here is too wide. So I think that has to do with perhaps this part of the eye socket area having to go that way, go in some. Now one way you can get the eye sockets, make them flow, get the eyebrows, understand that shape, is to look at this piece right here. Some people call it the forehead. So let's get started. So Claire did a very good job, and it's important to note that I'm working digital and she's working in watercolor. I don't do watercolor, which is why I'm giving her advice, but it's much easier for me to correct on digital than it is for her to do watercolor. So may it be noted. All right, so I got to work on this a little bit for you, Clara. You're welcome. And these are the changes that I made. Boom! Shakalaka. Bad, good. Dumb, smart. You, me. Mongrel, genius. You get the idea. Though, what I did, I went through and fixed this area and made it a little bit softer because we make things recede through our line quality. So you can recede it into the background through softening those lines. Sharper lines tend to stand out more. However, you do want a combination of soft and sharp lines. So having this sharp here will accentuate the nose area right here, that and the contrast of light and dark. So I fixed the shadow down here and I added, like I said I would, this transitional value here. And you see how now this flows a little bit better with the rest of the face. I also consolidated the light areas. So we have the highlight areas kind of up around here and here. Just a little hint right here, and perhaps right here and here. And normally though, they're up in this area. You might have one right there as well. It draws your attention to this area right here. Now I fixed the anatomy in the ear some. However, I will say, and I have the nuts to say it, that this area right here is a little disproportionate. It should probably shrink in a little bit more, probably in just a little bit. It's important as an artist to look at yourself very honestly. That's how we improve. I also went through and added these transitional mid-tone values right here to the hairline. And now this is very difficult for the peasants to do, but you need to learn to get these values, these in-between values, and they're very subtle and sometimes it's very hard. We might make them too warm, we might make them too cool in color. It's worth taking your time to practice to get these values that you'll find in the hairline, because it will enable you to freaking turn the form and bring and connect this to this, right? There needs to be the smooth transition. As you can tell as well, I have worked on the mouth. I darkened this area in here just a little bit, along with the upper lip, and essentially worked the drawing and added just a sliver of light here. So we have this darker up top, we have it dark in the center right there, and then just a hint of light. And then you also have these mid-tone values like I was talking about up in the hairline. Now I worked the anatomy of the eyes. I also brought this piece in that way just a little bit, which fixed this shape right here and flows more with the forehead and this eyebrow. Now I did correct some of the issues with this eye, and I did that by going through and adding some shading and drawing, trying to solidify the form a little bit more than it was. Speaking of the eyes, also going through and really seeing this as an entire shape right here is very important. Normally what you have the darkest part right here, and then it kind of flows down right there underneath. This is a plane, okay? And then here's the top right above the eyelid, which is normally a little bit darker. All right, so this is important. Normally you have a shadow that's kind of coming along here that kind of goes up and meets the eyebrows. But this part right here is normally a little bit lighter. So it normally fades from light to dark going this way. As you can tell, this is gonna be the darkest area right here. Normally, actually, depending on the person's hair, normally it's the eyebrows that are darkest right there, and then you'll have this point right here that's a little bit darker, and then it fades to the light. Claire, this is a very good watercolor that you did, and I would definitely keep on doing them. These are the things that I would look at. Even I'm looking at my ear, I didn't draw it quite correctly, so that still needs some work. So imagine how hard it would be in watercolor, which is why it's so important to learn how to draw beforehand. And you're on your way, you're doing a very good job, I have to say. His life was complete, and yet there was something amiss. A nagging feeling of loss, not for himself, but for his most loyal subject, Queldar. Even though he was a butthole, Queldar needed Lewis's glorious wisdom that manifested itself in various mysterious forms: strength, intellect, beauty of mind and body, a likable personality, chiseled calves, bronzed biceps with just a hint of acqua di gio by Romani, an indomitable will to survive and dominate the lesser beings. In his mind's eye, Lewis saw Queldar, the true Queldar, afraid, shivering, butt-ass naked in his one-bedroom apartment, laying on his back in the fetal position, a slight whimper that sounded somewhat akin to a little 6-year-old girl with ponytails, pink barrettes, and a hula hoop. As his fertile and rich brain cultivated a crystal-clear image of Queldar's need for him, Louis solidified his noble resolve to be even more humble than he already was, and lower himself to Queldar's level, to gift him with a golden, sweet, and juicy critique that he knew would change Queldar's life forever. The first thing that pops out is the wrists are about the size of the elbows, and that is actually a very common mistake for the morons. But that's why I'm here, to correct this. So we are going to correct this area right here and make it correspond to this area a little bit better. I want y'all to draw your attention over this little indentation here. We're going to fix that and also bring this angle in some so that it lines more up with that, and then work on the knuckles, which come down about at such an angle. We're also going to fix this area where it looks like the mouth has been melted down. This area is way too big. One thing I would like to do also is get some more form in the face, consolidate the light shapes, really define the light shapes a little bit more than they are. I have to say, this is not as bad as I would think just by looking at Queldar. Queldar, you actually, I don't know if you meant to do this, I doubt you did, but you actually managed to get somewhat of a sense of light in this painting. Here we have a little sliver of light coming through right there, and then it is echoed in the chair right here, and that's not bad. That is not bad at all. Also, what I like about this is that this isn't just black and white here. You actually put color in the cloth, which is white, and you've denoted shadows properly with it. Albeit the technique could be a little bit better, but I will give you this. Let's work on our hands here. They do look like clubs. We're going to correct some of the anatomy in the face. We're going to probably get this ear right here too. And work on the transition of the nose some. Let's bring this dark area right here down just a little bit so that the form turns with the face. Just a little bit more than we have it, because right now it essentially looks like we have a separate plane going this way, and that's not how it goes, if you knew anything about art. All right, let's get started. All right, so we worked on it a little bit, and this is what I have. Boom. That's what we got here. Now let me go through and I will break down exactly what I did to create this masterpiece. I went through and added a sense of light, and we want the light kind of, it's obviously hitting the side of the face right here. So I went through in this area and right here, added a little bit of light here, corrected the shadows and such, so it formed some sense of light right here. So, as you can tell, the light is a little bit more organized on the face. One of the big changes I did, I moved the mouth up and I worked on the proportions a little bit. Now, if I zoom in, how it works is that this area gets soft, and then there's a slight value here and then a darker value right here. And what that does, it makes the mouth turn out into the cheek. And that is very important. It happens right here too. Oftentimes in the darkness it's lost. All right, there's a saying that we have, is that in light there is form. You can actually see the structure. In shadow there's atmosphere. It kind of sifts back into space. So oftentimes you'll have form that's lost in the shadow. So light is form, shadow is atmosphere. I also went through and put a shadow shape right around this area to make this turn a little bit more. That means make it look more three-dimensional. And I also went through and reworked some of the transitions up top here. So the hair, you want it framing the face, but you also want it to turn into the face. You don't want them to be separate. Fixed anatomy of the ear, and just worked on the overall structure around this area, a little bit down here, worked on the shadows, and tried to make it, just like up in here, I tried to make this part turn into the light area of the face and kind of unified this area of light right here. If you look at Raphael's drawings or the pre-Raphaelites or even Michelangelo's drawing, you'll find definition of shadow shapes. You'll find actual shadow shapes, actual light shapes. It's very easy to copy from. I do recommend drawing from old masters, but having defined shadow shapes, defined light shapes is very important in drawing and painting. All right, so let's go down to the hands here. So the hands, I did redraw them quite a bit. And now hands are very difficult. If the best draftsmen are able to do joints, and that's because the joints are very subtle. All right, so here is what we had before. All right, so then here's mine, and essentially I just fixed the angles right here. There's a little bit, it's a little bit more subtle. You want to keep in mind these distances right here, okay? Normally how it goes, you have the knuckles and they kind of come like this, and then they kind of drop down this way. They don't always go straight across. Now, with women, it's a little less obvious. In fact, I see a proportional issue right now. This knuckle on mine could be going up just a little bit, and it's very important to be able to critique yourself and have, you know, just the nuts to be able to take it. This is very important. That's how you improve. But as I was saying, normally there's an angle, 1, 2, and as you can tell, this probably, I mean, it would be something like this, and this would go up just a little bit here on mine. And then, you know, you have this form that's coming down, and then you have the wrist area, but keeping this distance and this distance in mind is very important when you are drawing. And one of the keys of getting these widths and distances correct is to look at the entire shape as you draw those widths. All right, so the arms, as far as it goes right here, you can see the difference between them. And I simply just cleaned them up, made them look a little bit more feminine, went through, put some of the anatomy in, right there. I could have done a better job down here. I think actually this part probably goes up just a little bit anyway, but that's okay. You get the idea. Now, one thing I did to really make the hands stand out, I deepened the shadows here, and that doesn't just mean making them darker, it means adding color to the shadows, and this is very important. I've seen paintings come alive when the artist has added actual color into the shadow, and that's the key. You have to keep the shadows dark, but you have to bring the color value up, which is why it's very important to have, especially very good reds. You need good reds, all right? A good red will not lighten the value up as much. It will really make that value nice. It'll keep that value dark, but it'll add rich color into it. Now, it's very easy for me to do on Photoshop because you can do anything on it. So adding these colors in, adding the shadow shapes with color into it makes the drawing come alive. And even within this, we have soft areas that kind of fade. We have sharp areas right here. Right, there's a sharp, we have it soft right here. And what that does, that variation in your line work is going to help make the drawing very interesting to look at, number one, but number two, it's going to give a healthy contrast that will enable the drawing to pop off the page, okay? Because if everything's sharp, everything's going to be standing out. So if something's sharp, you have to have something fade to really impress upon you that this is a sharp angle, or rather a sharp line. And that's what I'm talking about here. So essentially working on the anatomy and just the field color in general, the general color of everything. All I did was correct the anatomy the whole time. That's it. Now, Queller, I would like to say that I can be a very strict master. I understand this. I can be very harsh sometimes, but I only do it because I care. I don't do it to put myself up. I don't need to. Everything I do will make you better. That wave of despair you feel, that you don't feel anywhere else, it'll make you tougher, trust me. I know. Very few people stick with me, but those who do can weather the storm. They learn to survive. They become the best of the best. The cream of the crop. The cream of the crop. This milky, sweet, and creamy goodness is what I deliver to the peasants on a daily basis. Now, if you're tired of being a loser and wish to improve in your own work, send it to me, and I will use it in my next video. I offer drawing classes, and I stream every week with the noble goal of improving your art. So until next time, I am Louis Guidetti. Master painter, mathematician, emancipation.